TX Factor is brought to you in association with Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store. And the Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to sponsor TX Factor. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of TX Factor. In this programme we look forward to the UK's Youngsters on the Air 2017 event and speak with some of the key players about what YOTA has to offer and what we can expect at Gilwell Park in August. Our new team member, Pete Sipple, gets his hands on Kenwood's latest dual-band D-Star handy. Yes, it does have D-Star. We hear what the ARRL is up to here in the UK and discover a cool way to improve the filtering on your trusty FT817. Finally in the show, Mike gets to grips with a nifty device to test the efficiency of your antenna with a chance to win one in our latest free-to-enter draw. So to kick off this episode of TX Factor, here's Pete on a mission to find out more of what YOTA 2017 has to offer our younger amateurs this summer.
Encouraging youngsters into the hobby is a continual challenge. I'm talking now to Jonathan M0JSX, who's involved with organising the YOTA event for 2017.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about YOTA?
So YOTA is going to be a week-long activity week, which will be comprised of around 80 under 26 from around 30 countries. It's happening between the 5th and the 12th of August this year up in Gilwell Park, which is obviously the big scout place to the north of London.
And that's a fairly large centre, and I know they do a lot of YOTA activities there each year.
Yes.
Any idea yet what kind of stuff's going to be going on there?
I haven't been told full details yet. I have got a sneaking suspicion that the activity list has now been finalised, but they haven't told me. But it will be a week long of activities around at the amateur radio subject. I'm hoping for a bit of construction as well, because I quite like knowing which end of a soldering iron is hot.
Very, very important.
I've burnt myself a few too many times.
Okay, so what is the background behind YOTA? Why is that so important?
So YOTA, it's encouraging youngsters to get involved in the hobby. We keep being told the youngsters are the future, and I think that's definitely the case. So it's a way of gathering lots of under 26s from all over the world in one place to celebrate, I think, what's the best bits about amateur radio.
Being a young person,
yes.
What are the best bits about amateur radio? What do you enjoy?
Do you know what? I like to think of amateur radio as an umbrella hobby. It's an umbrella term for lots of hobbies inside it. So I like the fact that in the one hobby, I can one day be chasing DX on 20 metres, I can then be having a ragtune on 40, and then I could be using my 2-metre handheld listening to the International Space Station go over, all under this umbrella that is amateur radio. And I think that's what I enjoy about it, that I'm not pinned down to any one thing.
Mm-hmm. And what got you interested in amateur radio?
My dad's a ham, and about 10 years ago, he said to me, when I was spotty-faced 13-year-old, he said to me, do you want to do your amateur radio licence? I went, all right. Didn't really know what it was at that time. Here I am 10 years later, and I'm a full cord holder, so it went one way.
And how have you got yourself involved in the YOTA activities?
Letter came through from the RSGB, from the Youth Committee, inviting me to apply as a young member of the RSGB. And I thought, what have I got to lose? So I put in the application, and I didn't really think I was going to get chosen, I'll be honest. And then I was. And I went, oh, okay. I better book some time off holiday.
So there you are, ready to dive into
Yes.
to this. So obviously, we've got a lot of problems with getting youngsters into the hobby. So
Yes.
we're the smartphone culture now.
Yes.
You know, the idea of saying you can communicate around the world, youngsters will wave a smartphone at you and point to Skype and other apps.
Yeah.
Why is amateur radio something that we can promote to youngsters?
I think what we've got to do with the youngsters now, it's not so much the case of being able to talk around the world. I don't think amateur radio has that appeal. Yes, it's still something that we enjoy doing. I mean, the fact that I can, use a 5-watt small QRP transceiver and to talk to someone on the other side of the world potentially with it, given band conditions, which are rubbish at the moment, we all know. But that's still quite fascinating. But I think it's more the technical side of it, where youngsters are coming in. I don't think chatting to someone necessarily is what gets people involved in anymore. So I can build something, and then I can use that something to actually have a conversation with someone. I think that's where it's more at. It's the construction side of it into the technical aspects, rather than the pure operating as it was in the past.
Friends of your age,
yes,
you presumably know and socialise with.
Yes.
How do they feel about your amateur radio activities?
Well, they think it's a bit weird, but then I'm a bit weird, and I like that. And they know I do amateur radio, and then I've been selected for this Yoda thing. Not that they know really what that is, but yeah, they're not interested in it per se, but they do think that some of the aspects of what I can do within the hobby are cool, even if they don't want to go the whole hog and get a call sign themselves.
And when you're actually going to be involved in YOTA, what aspect of amateur radio are you looking to push?
I'd like to kind of push the good DX code of conduct. So you listen on the bands and you hear some atrocious operating. So I'd like to try and push that. And also I'm looking forward to doing a little bit of construction and some of the aspects of the hobby that I haven't done before. So I've never done like direction finding and stuff like that. I've never done a fox hunt. So I'd quite like to give that a go if that's one of the activities that they've got planned for us.
Not giving anything away, are you?
I don't know anything. I wish I did.
And just remind us again, when is YOTA?
So YOTA is the 5th to the 12th of August 2017.
And how many people are taking part?
So it's around 80 under 26s from around 30 countries.
Excellent. Very good luck.
Thank you very much.
Now, one of the problems we face in amateur radio is trying to encourage more youngsters to take part, and there are rather a lot of seniors in the hobby. Now, I'm talking to Mick, who's from the RSGB. Your name, sir?
It's Mick Senior.
And your call sign?
My call sign's G4EFO, Echo Fox Oscar.
Now, I understand you're involved in YOTA 2017.
Yes.
What's happening in Region 10 about YOTA?
Region 10, we're hoping to establish a station between the 5th and the 12th of August. It's quite near Horsham, and it's a lovely big scout camp where they've got about 10 acres of ground. And the idea is to set up a station. We're not quite sure whether it will be on the HF bands or VHF, but in addition it would be useful, we thought, to have some fox hunting equipment so the youngsters could get out and learn this part of the hobby. And in addition, something we've found that interests youngsters is having the ability to have Morse, so they can sit down and practice with a key. For some obscure reason, youngsters love to practice Morse.
Now, you mentioned Morse code there. That's quite interesting. Youngsters are maybe able to pick up Morse a little bit easier, whether it's because they're younger, maybe not so cluttered with the stuff that we're cluttered with, or maybe it's because Morse is a bit more musical.
Quite possibly, and girls seem to be a lot quicker at understanding Morse, which I think goes back to the time of the last war, when at Bletchley Park most of the CW operators were young girls.
Can you tell me a little bit about what being a YOTA supporter is all about?
Being a YOTA supporter, and incidentally, if you do help, you do get this wonderful pin badge from the Radio Society. We have to appreciate that the youngsters of today are the engineers of tomorrow, and we really need to introduce young people into the hobby.
And of course that's a little bit of a challenge for the RSGB, isn't it?
It's a very big challenge, but by virtue of the fact that last year we had Tim Peake in space, and there were lots of schools that managed to talk to Tim Peake and have video contacts with him while he was in space, it inspired a lot of interest. And we're starting to get youngsters more interested in the hobby. Hopefully there will be more, but time will tell.
I'm assuming you've contacted all the local clubs in your region for some support on this?
It is quite difficult to get commitment. A lot of people are very busy with their own working lives, of course, but a lot of people have said that they will help. Whether it comes to fruition or not, time will tell. But we hope to have a good station on the air for the YOTA celebrations.
And of course, you've had a lot of success in Region 10. I think you were involved in a couple of the Tim Peake contacts?
Yes, we did. One of the schools which we sponsored was St Richard's down at Eastbourne, and they had a really exciting day. In fact, I think that Eastbourne was the first school to actually do a live video link up with Tim. And also we had the Wellesley House School at near Hildeston over in Kent. That was another school, and that was very, very well attended. And finally, the other school that I did attend was the Royal Masonic School for Girls in just north of the Thames, slightly outside of my area, but we all fly the flag when we have to.
Got to be done.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, best of luck. Hope it all goes well, and look forward to hearing you on the air.
Thank you very much indeed.
So I'm talking to Dan, a youngster very recently licensed and getting into the amateur radio hobby. What's your call sign, Dan?
I'm M6NCD.
So what got you interested in amateur radio?
Well, my whole family has really been into amateur radio. My dad is a radio amateur, my mum is, and my granddad is. So I've kind of been surrounded by the whole thing recently, and it's kind of come to the age where I'm up for doing the test, and I managed to pass it.
And what sort of stuff do you enjoy doing with amateur radio?
I've been a support crew for some scouting hikes recently. The Overland has had quite a big increase in teams, so I've been helping out being a support crew on the radio, contacting everyone, making sure everything's running good, helping any teams that do end up getting lost on the hikes.
And you mentioned scouting. Have you been involved in the JOTA activities?
Yeah, I've just recently managed to complete all the challenge badges, which are the 9 diamond-shaped badges, and that gets you the Gold Award, which is the Gold Chief Scout Award. One of the main ones in scouting. This will go towards my future careers. If I put it on my CV, I will definitely, hopefully, get the job. I do tend to get involved with JOTA. This year I was helping my dad with a station at my local scout hut. I had quite a lot of my scouting friends come along, do a bit of talking. I think we managed to contact people in Poland and all the way across to Madagascar we got a contact, so I do get quite involved with it, yeah.
And how many of your friends are interested in amateur radio?
Quite a lot of my scouting friends are really interested. They did the course with me through scouting, but not many of my school friends really know about it. I've moved schools recently, so I've got quite a lot of new friends, but sometimes my friends do come out when I'm doing fox hunts and stuff along the South Downs.
Okay, so what do your mates think about amateur radio then when you tell them what you do?
Well, they think it's kind of like a weird computing hobby. They know I do YouTube and I make videos on computing with PCs, but they think it's just a weird version of that.
And you're quick to correct them?
Yes.
Excellent. So it's obviously a very important year for YOTA. Are you looking forward to trying to encourage more youth to get on the air?
I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I'm going to be helping at a few YOTA stations, trying to get district as a whole to get involved with the whole thing. I really do want people to get into it because it is really fun.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the hobby and look forward to working you on the air.
Thank you.
Still to come on TX Factor, we look at the work of the ARRL on both sides of the pond, and how to improve your FT817 with an inexpensive mod. But first, a close look at Kenwood's new THD74 D-Star Handy. And that's coming up next.
The Radio Society of Great Britain is proud to be a sponsor of TX Factor. The RSGB has been in existence since 1913 and has always worked to protect, promote and enhance the use, understanding and enjoyment of wireless communication within a constantly developing amateur radio environment. The Society represents the interests of all the UK's licensed radio amateurs to the UK Government through Ofcom, the UK Radio Spectrum Regulator, and to the international organisations that govern the hobby, such as the IARU. RSGB representatives meet with Ofcom regularly to discuss and negotiate a variety of topics, including licensing, EMC, exams and spectrum issues. See the RSGB website for more information on how the Society can work for you.
I'm here today at Martin Lynch's ham store in sunny Staines, looking at a rather nice handheld. And I'm here with Tony. Hello, Tony.
Hi there, how you doing?
Tell me what we have here.
Okay, so this is Kenwood's latest flagship handheld, basically. So it's the THD74E. What they've done basically is taken all of the primary features from all of their predecessor models. So THF7, for example, wideband receive, SSB receive, which is really nice. THD72, so it's got APRS built in, GPS as well as a standard function built in. And added to this now is D-Star. So yes, you may have thought it's just an icon sort of a feature. It's now within the Kenwood.
So this is basically a 270 SEMS handheld, but it also does D-Star. Now, I've got a D-Star, and it was right so-and-so to set up. How easy is it to get it going on these?
Okay, straight away, out of the box, pre-programmed with full D-Star listings. Okay, not available for the analog repeaters yet, but it will be coming on the firmware updates. So you literally, straight into D-Star, as long as you've entered your call sign, you're registered to D-Star network, you can dial your local repeater up, access that, and then just access your reflectors straight through from the SD card.
So you mentioned an SD card. Are you saying this has got a built-in recorder?
It has, yeah. So you've got an SD card, probably good to up to about a 32 gig card. So audio-wise, it's a good few hours worth of audio. You can record incoming QSOs. So for example, if you're listening to ISS and you want to show off to your friends down the pub, etc., record it. What do you do with that? Oh, here you go, I was listening to the space station.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's a lovely little feature in there. And again, if there's extra info regarding setup of it, so if you do share it around the group, RayNet for example, save your settings on the SD card, pop it in, revert it back to standard again.
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah, really
very
good.
handy for keeping an eye on your local repeater.
Very handy for that, yeah. So dual receiver as well. It's not a full duplex, i.e. so if you're working satellites, you're not going to receive both stations, up and down. But you can monitor two repeaters at the same time, and it will just cut the audio whilst you're listening to one.
Wow. Nice weight as well, isn't it? It's got a good sort of size to it. It's a little bit of depth compared with some of the other handhelds, but it's a nice comfy feel in the hand.
It is. I mean, we like to call it a man-size handle because, nowadays everything's so small, i.e. your smartphones, yes, they are getting slightly larger, but with a handheld, you want something rugged, you want something you're not going to drop if you're out and about, doing SOTA, for example.
What I really liked about this is the menu. So in the menu system, you've got pictures. You're not scrolling through pages and pages of text, which is really nice. So we've got the satellite there. FM broadcast?
FM broadcast is standard, yeah.
Okay.
So pop in your headphones and have a good listen, yeah.
APRS, great for your location finding
it
stuff,
is,
of course, which
yeah.
is good. Then your audio file for recording there. A lot easier than faffing around with all the various twiddling about with the menu. That's a nice colourful screen.
It is, and the good thing with the Kenwood is it is direct entry on the keypad as well. So you'll find a lot of new handhelds. You're into a menu, you're using the top selector knob. Not with the Kenwood, just straight on, direct entry, QSY straight away.
Of course, the key feature here is the filtering, which you can see on the menu there. Just tell me what filtering it has with it.
Okay, so with regards to the filtering, as I said, wideband receive. So if you're on HF, just say for example you're monitoring CW on 40 metres, SOTA activation again, and a bit of noise. All you do, go into the filtering, it's full DSP filtering, and you'll find out it goes down to 300 Hertz. So as with say your TS590, the filtering's here, it's there at a push of a button. You can preset SSB filtering, CW filtering, AM filtering and FM as well, and as I said, full DSP. So yeah, for a handheld, it's like having your main station rig in the palm of your hand.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sold. I'm taking this away with me if that's all
Really
right.
good. No
270 SEMS, what's the power on
It's
this?
5 watts outputs on there, and you can go down to around about half a watt. So ideal if you're using a DV link, for example, for D-Star.
Excellent. And the model number again?
It's THD74E.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to take this away for free today.
That's no problem.
Very much appreciated.
We will bill you later.
Well, sadly, Pete had to hand it back after filming, but there's always next time. Later in the show, Mike gets a few surprises as he analyses his HF antenna to see what bands and in what directions it favours. But next, well, we've all heard of the ARRL and how it looks after the interests of US hams, but what can the league offer amateurs in the rest of the world? Bob chats to Bob Inderbitzen and finds out. And Mike Marsh discovers there is hope for the FT817 when the bands are busy with noisy DX. DX Engineering is an American manufacturing company that specialises in antenna hardware built to the highest quality and design. From cable strippers to complete receive antenna phasing systems, DXE will have the antenna accessory for you. Their range of bolt-on accessories for Hustler antennas, for example, include the TB 3P tilt-over base and the all-important AOK 17-metre add-on kit. For more details on the DX Engineering range, visit Martin Lynch & Sons website today. And remember, ML&S ships worldwide. Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store. Do you know, I thought I'd come a long way to get to Hamfest 2016 here in Newark this year, because I came all the way from Cornwall. It took me 5.5 hours to drive up here, but it's nothing compared with Bob, November Quebec 1 Romeo, who's come all the way from the USA to be here at Newark. So how are you enjoying the show, Bob?
It's a great show. It's been 5 years since I've been to the UK National Hamfest, and it's good to be back.
So what's the benefit for you coming all the way on behalf of the ARRL from America to the UK for a show?
Well, ARRL is a national association, but it's also an international association. We have members around the world, 10,000 members overseas, and a critical mass of them in the English-speaking countries. So it's great to be here to show some face for both QST Magazine, ARRL, and some of our premier awards like DXCC.
What do ARRL members get then for their membership?
Number one benefit, of course, is QST Magazine, and that's known around the world. We have a large staff that contributes to that magazine, but we have editors and authors who provide the feature articles from around the world to that magazine. And so QST is very popular, and these days you can get it digitally and in print, so it's made it much easier for folks to be members of their local national society, but also to join ARRL and enjoy QST.
And you don't have to wait so long. If it's coming on your tablet, you don't have to wait so long for it to drop through the mailbox as you normally would.
That's right. ARRL has a foot in both sides of the equation, print and digital these days.
I imagine if the ARRL, it's the same as with the RSGB here in the UK, that a really important factor is getting more young people into the hobby. Is that something that's been a really important focus for the society?
Yeah, and that's another good reason for us to be out in the field, even around the world, to see what some of the other societies and other radio clubs around the world are doing. It is a tough nut to crack to get young people involved in amateur radio, and it's not so much because of the internet. Some people blame it on the technology they have available, but I think it's more of a time issue. We're competing for all the other things young people have access to for their time. We want to wave the flag for STEM education. We want to seed the next generation of engineers and technologists. And so ARRL does a number of things in those areas. We teach teachers. We bring educators into classrooms around the United States and teach the teacher robotics, wireless, electronics, all sorts of things that may provide a foundation for young people to pursue the STEM education areas and maybe college or engineering sciences.
Here in the UK we have fairly tame weather conditions. Over there in the US you have some severe weather sometimes, and things like forest fires, other natural disasters. So I imagine your emergency response aspect is very important.
I would say that there's two primary tracks of interest into amateur radio in the United States. One of them is technology, and the other one, just as big, is public service and emergency communications. And when you have such a large geography and an infrastructure that is so enormous that it is fragile just simply because of its size, hurricanes and tornadoes and floods and even civil emergencies all provide an opportunity for amateur radio to fill the gap sometimes. The post-Katrina, Hurricane Katrina environment was one where amateur radio has really flourished from a public service and emergency communication standpoint. In many respects, ham radio has provided the final mile between police and fire and other emergency services, and sometimes the ham radio operators in those communities where the disasters happen are impacted. And so it's made us think, how do amateurs from beyond those communities come in and assist when there's emergencies?
In the UK there's been a lot of focus, Bob, on what's going to happen to the hobby in the future, getting new blood into the hobby, and also protecting the spectrum we've got, because if we haven't got enough users, people might want to take it off us. Here the RSGB liaises with Ofcom. For you, with the FCC, I suppose that's a big part of the ARRL's role.
That's right. So advocacy on behalf of all radio amateurs and our members becomes very important. But ensuring that there's a foundation of new licensees every year coming in. And in the United States, we enjoy about 30,000 new licensees every year. The most important thing for our societies to do is to nurture them to become both members of our national societies, where the most active radio amateurs reside, but also that they progress through additional skill and training. In the United States, you upgrade your license like many other countries. We want people to go from technician to general to extra, but then to pursue even more training, even beyond licensing and getting on the air. We say that we want every radio amateur to be active, involved, and on the air.
And that's what it's all about, encouraging people to do that. Bob, it's been great talking to you, and I hope you have a fantastic stay in the UK.
Thank you. Good to be here, Bob.
I've got Richard from SOTABeams with me right now, and I quite thought when I was coming up alongside the stand I was going to be taken over by a load of antennas that you've got everywhere for people to do SOTA activating.
Well, I mean, we're well known for antennas, no question about that, and we sell them all over the world. But as a business, a small business, we need to diversify, so we've actually moved into doing some other things, some other interesting projects that we hope will be useful for amateurs who are doing portable operating, but also useful for amateurs who are doing other things.
Now, your little strapline is amateur radio for the great outdoors. That's
Sure.
what you're famous for.
Definitely.
And I know one way you're moving in now is into filtering.
That's right.
So tell me all about that.
Okay. The most popular radio that people use when they want to go outdoors tends to be the FT817. And the FT817, while it does a lot of things quite well, its filtering isn't the best. So, being an FT817 owner myself, I decided that I would develop a range of digital filters that could be used with the FT817, or perhaps some of these other smaller transceivers that are being developed these days. Because although they do quite a good job, their filtering often leaves a little bit to be desired. So we've moved into digital filtering. So what we've got here is a digital signal processor that we've developed, and the software on this board has been developed by us, and it's designed so that it can filter out signals that are very close together to each other. And it comes in several different versions. You can buy it with a wide and narrow SSB filter, wide and narrow CW filter, or a wide or an SSB and a CW filter. Okay, so this little green module is our digital filtering system, and the little black thing is a digital signal processor. And what we've got here is a signal generator, and I'll just do a demonstration. What I'm going to do now is to put a 900 Hertz tone through the filter. There's my 900 Hertz tone.
Nice and loud.
Yeah, nice and loud. Next to that, I'm going to put a 750 Hertz CW signal. Now the CW signal is 60 dB down on the 900 Hertz tones, and because there's no filtering at the moment, you can't hear the CW signal at all. So let's switch in the digital filter now. Now we've recovered the signal, now you can hear the CW signal. And even though it's only 150 Hertz away from the other tone and 60 dB weaker.
Yeah. So that's massive clarity. When the filter's in, it's almost like complete rejection of anything either side.
Exactly right, yes. I mean,
Wow.
that's the beauty of these filters. And you can't achieve that with analog filtering. So whatever sort of filters you've got in your radio, particularly a radio like the FT817 that has crystal filters, you can't do that.
And that's all done by the DSP chip that you've got on the board there.
That's right, the DSP chip does the magic, and the software that we've written allows it to do it that well.
Wow, that's really powerful. How easy is it for me to integrate that into my 817 that I'm going to take with me?
Okay, a couple of ways you can do it. The first is the filter board itself is pretty tiny. So we can actually mount it inside an FT817, and we do a version that actually mounts inside the FT817. However, understandably, quite a lot of people are a little bit nervous about mounting things inside their radio, because it requires soldering inside the radio.
Taking the radio apart.
Exactly right. So what we've also developed is a nice neat little enclosure for the filter, which has an audio amplifier on a board like this built into it, so that you can actually have this external from the radio. The advantage of this approach, of course, is that you can use it with different radios.
Absolutely.
So,
and how do you connect in and out of your radio using that box?
okay, using that box is really, really simple. Audio output from your radio, from the speaker socket or from the headphone socket, just comes into the AF in, and then the AF output is it either connects to a speaker or to your headphones. It's as easy as that.
Simple.
Yeah,
and
really
power supply wise,
Power
you
supply,
can run that from...
Okay, well, I mean, our background is in portable radio, so we know that people's portable radio supplies vary a lot. So we've designed this so it works over a range from 5 to 15 volts. So pretty much any portable supply you're going to have is going to be able to supply this
And
easily.
that 5 volts thing is quite good when your batteries are going flat.
Exactly right, yes. Your filtering's still going to work.
And these units that you're making, are these being made in the UK? Are they a British thing?
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, actually. They're actually made in the UK. They're made just about 15 miles from our factory in Macclesfield. and they're actually manufactured in the UK. So it's actually a product that's designed and manufactured in the UK. It's pretty unusual.
I've just thought of something that you should incorporate now into SOTABeams.
What's that?
And that's a new title. Sota Filters.
Maybe. Could be a step forward.
So how many times have you been getting yourself ready to play HF, the band sound busy, lots of people are calling, and you hear somebody put a call out and you go to answer them. You put your call back, do they answer you? Nothing. Okay, maybe a one-off. So you find another station, wow, he's 30 over 9, puts a call out, you answer him back, guess what? He doesn't come back to you. Story of my life operating the HF bands. And it's kind of left me thinking, is my gear actually working okay? Does anybody want to talk to me? Is the aerial working? Well, I know my operating technique's okay. I'm using the microphone correctly. I'm on the right frequency. So maybe it is all about the aerial. Well, here we are out in the garden on the brink of British summertime as well, and it's actually blowing a hoolie, as you'll see from the antenna waving about in the wind. Now, I'm using a Hustler 5 BTV HF vertical, nothing special, and in actual fact it's in need of a little bit of TLC. I've just noticed one of the spider leg elements has fallen off. That's probably in the grass somewhere, and I haven't gone to town with this one and set it up with radials all through the grass. So like my school report said, could have done better, but it was the way I set my aerial up and it works. So here we are at the base of the antenna, and as I said already, there's a few little minor jobs I need to do up the top, but I did go to town installing a ground spike and an RF choke at the antenna end here, just to try and help this thing perform as best as it possibly could in the limitations of one small back garden. But how do you know it's actually working okay? Well, the first thing really probably would be the old SWR meter test, just to check that you're resonant on the band that you want to be using. There's also computer software you can use to check out the performance of your antenna as well. But wouldn't it be fantastic if there was a little box you could just plug in that would test your antenna out across a number of days and a number of bands and check whether you're actually working on HF, and you could leave it running while you went off and did the shopping? Well, there actually is. Come and have a look. And here it is. It's the Whisper Lightbox from SOTABeams. So WSPR, Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. So Whisper's been around for quite some time, and it's a really useful mode to check out how your antenna is performing and HF propagation is performing at any given time of the day. Now, you can use WJST software, connect it to your computer. You've got to set up your sound card, you've got to mess around with mic gain levels, output levels. Is it going to work properly? It's a little bit of aggro to set up. Wouldn't it be good if you could just plug and play a box, put something in, put your aerial in, connect it up, and away you go? Well, the Whisper Lightbox will actually do all of that for you. Now, there's a little bit of setting up to do, but even for somebody like me who hates massive instruction manuals and results that take ages to get to, you can have this up and running within around about 10 minutes. It's available from Richard at SOTABeams, who's kindly lent me this very unit. What actually is it though? Well, it's basically a little beacon transmitter, all self-contained. All you need to do is connect your antenna to one end and your power supply to the other. Could go into your computer, or it could be an independent 5-volt USB power supply. And this little unit will sit there quite happily running for days or weeks on end, depending on how you configure it, to give you live propagation reports via the dexplorer.net webpage, which gives you up-to-the-minute information of all the Whisper transmissions across the globe. So when you get one of these, you are going to have to do a little bit of setup, but it's not that complicated, which was ideal for me. What you need to do is download a little bit of software to enable you to log into the box, and you need to enter your call sign and your QTH locator so that this box knows who you are and where your transmissions are going across the Whisper network. If you don't do that, then you won't be logged on the system as an identifiable station. It's really simple to do, and I'll show you how. So from the dexplorer.net homepage, grab yourself the very latest instructions and, more importantly, the configuration app and the drivers and maybe a firmware update for the box if it's not exactly bang up to date, to get it to integrate into your system. Now, I'm using Windows, which was lucky because this is pretty much a Windows-based application. There is third-party software for Linux and for Mac, but it's not actually officially supported by SOTABeams. So you'll have to find your own way there if that's your choice of operating system. But once you get the configuration app uploaded to your computer, it's very simple to integrate, very simple to get the box programmed up with your parameters, and you're on the air. So let's get the Whisperlite configured. What you need to do is open up the Whisperlite configuration app. Obviously you've got your box plugged into your computer. And if it's been programmed before, the little red LED on the top of the Whisperlite box will be flashing away. Now, you need to check whether you are connected to your COM port correctly. And you'll see on the screen here, COM3, SOTABeams, Whisperlite. Fantastic. So I've connected, and then you need to enter your parameters. So your call sign, first of all, goes in here in your Whisper ident. And your locator square. It's important to do this because if you don't enter your own information, the Whisperlite won't know who you are, and those that are listening to the signal across the planet won't know who you are either, so you won't get recognised on the system. So call sign, locator square, then you need to choose what band you're going to be on. I'm using 20 metres. The box as supplied is capable of working on 20 metres and 30 metres. You can work other HF bands, but you are going to need a low pass filter as an additional piece of equipment in line with the box just to get it to work properly. 20 metres was my band of choice for this. I also then had to tell the configuration app how much power I wanted to use. Well, of course, me being me, I wanted to set it to maximum. It's only 200 milliwatts maximum, which is nothing. There are a few choices. You can drop it right the way down to 5 milliwatts, but no, I had to go in all guns blazing and 200 milliwatts. So once I'd set that up, I went to the reported transmitter power, which means that when your Whisperlite beacon transmission goes out, it actually also couples with that data how much transmission power you are using. So people can kind of make even better assumptions of your signal by saying, well, he's got loads of power, he's not got so much power. And you can help kind of determine whether it's power over better aerial, smaller aerial over more power, that kind of thing. So important, I think, that you set up the output power as part of your transmission. Now you also need to set up what's called the repeat rate. Now what this means is basically how many times per hour is your Whisperlite unit actually going to make a beacon transmission. Now there's a little bit of an unwritten rule here, because you would think, well, I'm going to get it transmitting all day long, all hour long, so that I can get seen by as many receiving stations as possible. The etiquette is set it to 20%, which between you and me is around about 6 transmissions per hour. Now what that means is you're not hogging the band. You could be transmitting far too much and just basically getting in the way of other people also wanting to play the game. So I stuck with the etiquette at 20%, which actually meant 6 transmissions per hour of 110 seconds per transmission burst. That's kind of how long it lasts for. But I think it's only fair to play the game and give everybody else a chance as well while you're trying to figure out your own aerial. And then the last thing to set up really is how long do you want it to run for, bearing in mind that this will actually work all on its own without you babysitting it the whole way. So 7 days was my mode of choice, and I'm glad I did that because it's quite interesting over the 7 days how things varied across the globe. Now, it's a good idea with the antenna to make sure that you have actually got a pretty well tuned antenna to use to connect to your system. 2 reasons are the low power from the unit, I'm using 200 milliwatts, isn't enough to actually drive an ATU. So you really need to use an antenna that's well tuned for the band you're going to be on. My Hustler Vertical outside, it might be whopping around in the wind, but it's tuned quite well to 20 meters. So I knew that was going to be a safe bet without having to run an ATU, and hopefully it was going to work first time. Right, let the fun commence. The antenna is now connected. It's an SMA port on the side of the Whisper Light unit, by the way. And one thing you are going to have to get yourselves to connect to this is either an SMA adapter, so you can plug your antenna into the end of that, or do what I did, which is get a patch lead, an SO239 to an SMA, with a little bit of length so you can actually move the box around quite easily. That gives you a bit more room to move in the shack. So you will need to think about that, and all the items are available from the SOTABeams web store. So with the box connected, I've got a red light flashing at me now. The reason it's doing that is because it's telling me to set it up. It doesn't know what to do at the moment. We've got the configuration set with my call sign and my QTH locator. Now I need to tell it when to transmit. Now this red light that's flashing now is telling me that nothing's been set. What I need to do is just prime it by pressing the button here with a start time. Now that start time needs to be specific, and I'm talking to the second. So now is a good time for you to go get yourselves a radio controlled clock or a watch or something that you know is bang on time, because the Whisper Light beacon network works to a specific time constant, okay? So it's asking me to set the time for the transmission at just past 1 whole minute, 2 seconds past 1 whole minute. So I'm just kind of waiting for the top of a minute now. Looking at the Radio Shack clock, I've got about 5 seconds to get to 2 seconds past 1 minute. And I know the unit's upside down, by the way. The crew have just shouted at me, I'm holding it upside down. But the computer's on the left side, the aerial's on the right side. That's why I'm holding it upside down. 3, 2, 1, boom. Right, now if you look at the front of the unit, the red light's come on solid, which it should stay on for about 110 seconds now. So this is actually transmitting the first set of beacon tones. Now if I go over to, oh yeah. Okay, so now we're actually listening to what I'm doing. Now for the most part, it sounds pretty much just like an unmodulated carrier. If you listen closely though, there are slight pitch changes in the sound, but you've got to have your bat ears on to really get to the bottom of it. But that's what the Whisper beacon sounds like, which we're transmitting now through my Hustler Vertical in the back garden. But is it getting heard by anyone? We'll see. 110 seconds is a long time when you're listening to this noise. Story of my life in the Radio Shack there. Right, there we go. That's the end of the transmission. Light's gone out, and in theory, it won't do it until the next time that it feels is the right time to put out its Whisper Light transmission. Now you remember we set it up for 20% in the config. That means 6 times an hour. Now probably in about 6 to 7 minutes, it's going to do another transmission. It'll do it for 110 seconds and then it will stop. Then it'll give it perhaps another 8 to 10 minutes before it does another one. That's called not hogging the band. I could have set this up to transmit for the full hour, all day long, all week long, but it would have annoyed a lot of other stations. So that was our very, very first Whisper beacon transmission. And do you know what? It could have actually been picked up by any other station across the planet, provided my antenna was working correctly and propagation was on my side for 20 meters. And now, the moment of truth. Have we actually been heard anywhere on the planet? Well, let's go to the DXplorer webpage and find out whether anybody picked up that transmission. Now, I should say, to get to the DXplorer webpage with your own information, you need to go onto the config of the Whisper Light, where you can actually click on a link that's specifically in the settings there, which brings up your own kind of personalized web page on DXplorer, because with the purchase of a Whisper Light unit, you actually get 1 year's premium access to all the information on dxplorer.net. So let's go take a look at that. If you have a look down at the bottom here, there's the web browser page already configured in the setup for you. If you just click on Open in Browser, it should take you straight to the DXplorer homepage, and you'll see that my call sign is at the top of the screen there, as well as the band that we're operating on and the power that we're using for the Whisper Light. And you'll see just up here, premium mode. So with the purchase of the Whisper Lite, you are on the Explorer for 1 year. Now, has anybody actually heard what we just did with our tone, our beacon that went out for the first time? So I'm going to click on this. I'm slightly in trepidation here as to whether anything's going to work. Let's see whether anybody saw us. Look at that. And Oscar Echo 3 Bravo Uniform Bravo has picked up that transmission we've just made on my HF vertical out there blowing around in the wind. Is it real? Yes, it is. 20 meters mid-afternoon, we can actually see, I think he's probably Austria. Let's go have a look at the menu. I can look at the spots map and see a picture of where he is. And there we go. There are we, big black spot, southwest of England. There is Oscar Echo 3 Bravo Uniform Bravo in Austria. In fact, if I hover over his receiving dot, you can see his call, and you can see the fact that he's received a signal from G1IR on 14 megahertz at 200 milliwatts, 1,426 kilometers away. Thank you very much. It's worked first time. So that's good news. Now, I have to admit I've put the unit on soak, and I've actually been running it for a week prior to this demonstration, only because I wanted to check out what propagation was doing over a longer period of time. No point just doing it for a couple of minutes, couple of hours. You kind of want to figure out whether your antenna system is performing on a certain band, but also what are the best times to be using those bands. And from previous tests that I've made, it's been quite interesting. Now this is showing on the window right now about a 4-hour time slot. And you can see peaks, troughs, nothing. Now that really is a good indication of when you're being heard and when perhaps propagation is better for you on 20 meters, certainly using my antenna. What you can do with this is you can try multiple antennas, so not just the HF vertical that I'm using. You might have a beam, you might have a long wire you want to try. Well, you can actually hot swap and connect to the Whisper Lite box using different antennas. So over a period of 1 day, you could be set up for a 12-hour period and you could test various antennas on the same band or various antennas on different bands. But what was really interesting for me was to actually check the results over a longer period of time, like a week. Where are the peaks in propagation? Where are the troughs? Where's my antenna performing across the globe at what time of the day? Now looking at my week long here, you can see peaks, you can see troughs, you can see periods of no activity whatsoever. Is that my antenna? No, it's probably propagation in this instance. Now, looking at the week long on a graph is quite interesting, but it's a whole heap more fun when you look at the map and you see where you've been picked up across the globe. And the results really are quite surprising. So thanks to all the stations globally who are monitoring Whisper beacon transmissions all across the world. If it wasn't for them, you'd have no idea about who was being received. It's been really good fun using this because it's been easy to set up. Once I've had it set up, I've been able to let it run for a week in the background and gather me a mine of information about good days for propagation, good times during that day as well, and whether my antenna's been working all right. In fact, it's completely restored the faith in my own HF setup because I had no confidence in it whatsoever, but I've now proven to myself on 200 milliwatts that the old vertical out in the garden is actually working okay. And thanks to Richard from SOTABeams for lending me the Whisper Lite for a whole week. It's been really good fun analysing the capabilities of my station and the fact that I now know my antenna's working. I've got to give it back now though. And the reason being is we're going to offer it up as a prize in our next free to enter draw. Do you fancy winning yourself £60 worth of tech to check out your antenna system at home and how propagation is affecting you? You can do that. It's a free to enter draw. Go to the TX Factor website at txfactor.co.uk. All the instructions will be there about how to enter our free to enter draw. And if you win, good luck testing out your antennas. Well, that's it from this episode of TX Factor. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed my exploits into RF propagation testing and all the other topics that we've covered on the show. We'll be back very soon with a fresh edition of TX Factor, covering lots of subjects from the whole wide world of amateur radio. Right now, I've got an aerial to go and maintain. I've got radials to dig into the ground. I've got rods to fix and bent bits that are all falling off. I've seen what it can do. but I want more. Out with the toolkit? Nah, cup of tea first. Happy days.
Excellent cut there.
This is TX Factor coming to you from the Hamfest 2016 here in Newark. What? I'm rabbiting again. Oh, there is a rabbit.
This episode was brought to you in association with Martin Lynch & Sons, the world's favourite ham store, and the Radio Society of Great Britain, proud sponsors of TX Factor.